Hello guys, DJ Parson here, and we are back for the card review. This time we're gonna have a look at all the H1 cards. Giving scores to the H1 cards is even harder than for the ones from HA, because the value of the cards depends greatly on what cards you got in HA and what leaders and one of them the game and the whole game situation as it is, and can't give it these strong values that are always correct. Nonetheless, I still think that some cards are overall better than others and just work in more situations. So the scores I give should give you an overview of how likely I will be to pick these cards. Also, I'm mainly in 1 versus 1 player, so the scores represent 2-player games the best, and they might be different for 3 and 4-player games. And with that said, let's start the review with Iron. Iron is one of those cards that's definitely stronger in 3 and 4-player games. In 1 vs 1 I often skip Iron. It's a big investment to go for it early. You can definitely stay at 3 bronze for quite a while. And the main reason of course being that the yellow cards are more accessible in 2-player games because there are just more of them for each player. So Iron is a strong tech if you can go for it. It is quite a big investment, but it can pay off, so I'm gonna give it a 7. Irrigation is a little bit different, mainly because in 2-player games there's only one selective breeding from H2. So if you don't have irrigation and the other player picks the selective breeding away from you, you're stuck with just 2 farms from HA, and sooner or later you will get a problem with food. So I think if someone takes away the second irrigation and you have none, it can be very risky, so I would give irrigation an 8. Now for the civil buildings, theology, not really good I think. Theology of course gives you only the 2 happy faces, and you have to take the card, research it, and upgrade your religions for just the 1 happy face. You can go with the first H easily without theology or any happy face cards, and theology is also not enough for the later ages, so it solves no problem that I usually have, so I will give it only a 3 because I always never pick it. If you want to go for bigger religion, the H2 religion is definitely better. Alchemy is a very good tech. Sometimes I skip it if I have a wonder that gives me science production, but other than that it is one of the most important techs in the game. Going up to 4 science is really important, so I'm going to give it a 9. Printing press is a little bit unique tech, or only good in unique situations. Certainly with some leaders like Shakespeare you can make use of it. In other situations it just isn't worth it to pay the extra science and the extra actions to go for printing press instead of philosophy, mainly because you get some culture, but this early you don't want to concentrate on getting culture, you want to get your economy and other stuff like science going, so you get more culture in the late game. So I think printing press in some situations might be good, but overall not really, so I'm going to give it a 5. Looking for bread and circuses. Bread and circuses is a little bit different than theology. So bread and circuses definitely got a little bit stronger in the expansion because some of the leaders, and it's really cheap, only 3 resources that you need to get the 2 happy faces, and in later game it can also be very useful. It's still not the best. If you go for arenas, probably the ones from H2 or 3, so bread and circuses also not too good in my opinion. I'm also gonna give it a 5. Now for drama. Drama is a very interesting pick. If you can get away with it, it can be really strong to upgrade your culture production that early. Also some really good leaders with drama, especially Bach and Marlene Dietrich, can be very strong with drama. It's still a big risk to go for it, or a big investment, so you have to be sure that you can defend military wise the dramas that you build. So also situational, but I think it's pretty strong if you have the right situation to make use of it. So I'm gonna give it a 6. And then going for the blue special technologies cartography, you can pick this if you have good territories in your hand. If you're not, then you can't really pick it for the 1 strength. So it's also very situational, and these very situational cards are really hard to score. I'm gonna give it a 6 because there are very few situations where it's really good and it falls off quite easily. Then going for warfare. Warfare is a really strong tech, but the problem with warfare is that H2 strategy is just so much stronger, and if you go for warfare you can't also go for strategy because you would waste basically 5 science. So warfare would be good if strategy wasn't that good. I had really hoped they would nerf strategy maybe a bit, and yeah, warfare is still, I will give a 7, especially in games with more players. It can give you the military bonus you need, and it's really good tech, but outshined by strategy. Code of Laws, one of the best blue technologies there are. If you get it early, it can give you a really big boost to everything you can do with the civil actions. So basically everything. So it might be even a 10. I'm gonna go with a 9 for now. There are also a great number of things you can do with Code of Laws, where you need your 5th civil action for quite a lot, and Code of Laws is one of those things that can give it to you. I will come to that, back to that later. First, Masonry. Masonry definitely got a bit more useful with the expansion. Before that it was very useless. Now with the wonders that take 4 or even 5 steps to build, Masonry definitely becomes better. For some of these wonders, basically can only take them with Masonry, or if you have a lot of civil actions and not so much resources. So Masonry, like a lot of the blue civil actions, the blue technologies, sometimes not worth the civil actions, and very unique techs in certain situations. I'm personally not a fan of Masonry. I'm gonna give it a 5, mainly because it costs you civil actions and does very little. You can take back the civil actions when you build big wonders with a lot of steps, but not a big fan. Then Swordsmen and Knights are very important techs, mainly because the Knights, because you can fulfill the H1 tactics with them, and the Swordsmen because you can fulfill the H2 tactics with them as well. And if you draw the strong H2 tactics and don't have Swordsman, and the other player takes away the infantry line from you, you're stuck with very bad tactics. So I'm gonna give the Knights a 9 and the Swordsman an 8, because Knights are a little bit more important because you have the warrior tech already for the H1 tactics. Now going for Monarchy and Theocracy. Monarchy, of course, also giving you your 5th civil action, really strong, a little bit more expensive than Theocracy. I personally am a bigger fan of Theocracy. If you somehow get your 5th civil actions from somewhere, because basically Monarchy gives you 1 civil action more, and Theocracy gives you for that 1 happy face, 1 strength and 1 culture, and 2, you basically with every civil action you get with Monarchy, you have to keep up with exactly that, and I think that's not that easy. Theocracy also a little bit cheaper, so I'm a big fan of Theocracy. I give Theocracy a 9, Monarchy an 8. If you get it early, Monarchy is probably better. If you get an early Revolution, Theocracy with Revolution is often not worth it, but Theocracy does so much stuff in once, and I always like that. Now going for the yellow cards. Again, Engineering Genius gives you 1 resource more than the other cards, but it doesn't double it like an HA, so the difference isn't that huge. I wouldn't give Engineering Genius 10 now, but would stay at the 9, because it's still one of the best yellow cards. And then give rich land a 7 and urban growth an 8, because again I think most of the time during H1 I would rather build urban buildings than upgrade my my economy. They sometimes, of course, they're the same, but generally urban growth is a bit more versatile, especially in the beginning, because it takes quite a while for you to get up to iron or irrigation. Then we have patriotism and frugality again. They get a bit better because everything does, and food becomes a little bit more important. Frugality is still worst yellow card, I think, and I'll give it a 5. And patriotism a 6 again, because I feel that the resources are still more important and you get an extra military from it. Breakthrough, also a very good yellow tech, yellow card, and I would put it on the same level as Engineering Genius, because you pay 1 civil action and gain 2 science from that, and that's a great deal. Then Cultural Heritage, you have to pay 2 civil actions to get the 2 science, then you get 2 civil actions as a bonus. It's still okay, but there's 2 culture you get isn't worth the 1 civil action you have to pay, so I would give it a 7. And then reserves, same as patriotism basically. You have to pay, well, it's not the same as patriotism obviously. You also have to pay 2 civil actions, that way yeah. The 2 civil actions you have to pay, you get to choose what you want to do with your resources, so with urban growth you only can spend it on buildings, urban buildings are this, so reserves a bit more flexible, but still very expensive to pay this extra civil action, so I'm going to give it a 6. And then we can continue with the leaders of the old and of the new. But first, start with Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is very, I think, unique because he does want you to build swordsmen, and then at some point he drops off and you get a new leader, and then you have a very special situation that you might lose a lot of military strength, because if you don't prepare for losing Genghis Khan, it can be very bad. Also, you really need one of the good tactics with cavalry, mainly heavy cavalry. So if you can do that, if you have like a leader from HA, like those that give you more drawing power, like Sun Tzu or Caesar, then it's really great. And then you can control the game really nicely. Especially you might need 1 more military action, so an early 3rd military action with Colosseum or something, and then he's quite strong, but you can't always pick him for every situation, so I'm gonna give him a 7. Then going for Frederick Barbarossa. He also needs really a lot of military actions, so when you only have 2 military actions, he becomes really bad. Also you have to go for a whole strategy based around Barbarossa. You can't just use them once or twice and then get another leader. Then he wasn't worth it, basically. I think there's a certain strategy around Barbarossa that's really strong, but you have to have like irrigation with it, then maybe Great Wall and some other form of happy faces, because if you if you get a lot of population and uses military actions to increase, then you're sooner or later gonna have a happy face problem. So yeah, I think he's not very versatile. He has 1 strong strategy that you can play with him, so he's only getting a 6 for me. Now going for Christopher Columbus. Of course you need also, like Frederick Barbarossa and Genghis Khan basically, more so Genghis Khan, strong HA or early game draw mechanism for the military cards, because you want to find your special and very good territories. So again, if you go from Sun Tzu and Caesar to Christopher Columbus, and then it's a good tactic to go for Christopher Columbus. Obviously, if you have no colonies, it's very bad. But with vast territory, he's one of the, or maybe the strongest leader there is. So he gets an 8 because with vast territory, he's definitely a 10. Without, he might be a 6 or 7, and with no colonies, he is obviously a 0. And now going for Leonardo. Leonardo is very nice to have if you have either alchemy or printing press, getting extra science production and some resources. That's basically all you want in H1, maybe some food as well, but basically the most important things are science and resources. If you have no alchemy or printing press, he becomes very bad, and also he's not that, it's a little boost in both, but the resources, especially with a low science production, you won't get much resources out of him. So he also gets an 8 because a very solid leader, but nothing overwhelming. Then for Michelangelo, who was buffed a little bit, because now if he takes a wonder, he gains 1 resource, and of course a lot of players play him for his extra culture production. I think he's better used as a wonder taker and saving civil actions. So if you have a strong economy, like iron, and not many civil actions, then you can take one wonder after the other and really make use of Michelangelo, especially now with the extra resources. You can go up to like 4 or 5 wonders that you play and build, and of course for that to work there must be very good wonders for you to take, and you must have a strong economy, which are all things that are not always there. So it's not a leader you just want to take, because it's also can be very greedy, because he basically only gives you culture. Doing that with an H1 leader is very greedy, so it's 6 as well. And then we have Joan of Arc, who's my personal favorite, because she does so much. She gives you the important 3rd military action, gives you some culture, gives you some strength, and also some control of the event stack. And none of these are super strong. Like you can go really strong with this, if you use the strength with St. Peter's Basilica. Like you can go up to 6 strength, especially with Theocracy. But in a usual game it will be 2 or 3 strength. But with all the other bonuses that she has, I still think that she's the strongest, and will get a 9 from me. Now continuing with the Great Wall. The Great Wall was always one of my favorite H1 wonders, because it gives strength, and also a lot of strength in the end game. Especially in 1 vs 1 games, there is often this one very big war, or maybe even 2 in the 3rd age, that often decides the game, can decide the game if it was very close before. And the Great Wall is a wonder that gives you bonuses in the early game, and then also a big bonus for the end game, and that is really good to have in a wonder. So it is a 9 for me. Then there's the Universitas Carolina. Also, I didn't about the Great Wall. It was obviously very expensive, 9 resources and 4 actions. It's pretty expensive, but it's an investment in the future, because the Great Wall becomes basically stronger the later it goes. Whereas like Universitas, the 2 signs you get at the end, it doesn't really matter. And that's the problem with Universitas at the end. In the early game it's really strong. If you get the Universitas very soon, like in the beginning of H1, it is super strong. Obviously also not cheap, but the 2 signs, if you get it in one of your first turns, like 5 or 6, and have it finished, you can skip alchemy and and go for other stuff and have a really nice science prediction even so. So Universitas gets an 8 for me. It would be a 9 if it's guaranteed, if you had guaranteed to get it early, and if it's later it's not so good, so then it would be a 7, so together it's an 8. Then the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal, you can only take this with when you have to pay no civil actions for it, basically, it's my opinion. If you have strong resource production, then it's fine to take this for 0 actions and build it really quickly and get some culture production. But the problem is it doesn't give you anything, basically. It just costs you something, and the H1 is too early to go for only culture production. So yeah, you might want to compare this to the Eiffel Tower, but the Eiffel Tower is from H2 and goes for a lot of culture production. And you can definitely go for one of this with a lot of culture production, but Taj Mahal doesn't give you anything else, and it's too early to go so much into culture production. Yeah, so for me it's only a 6, and that includes if you get it for free. So if you don't replace your leader, you don't want to take this. St. Peter's Basilica used to be the strongest wonder there is in the game before the expansion, and got rebalanced a bit. Now has a cost of 1, 6 and 1, which is a big deal. For 1, of course, you have to pay in civil action more, and then you have to also collect 6 resources, which can be very hard, especially if you're only at 3 bronze and don't get engineering genius. Then you have to collect the resources before you can spend them, and maybe you have problems with corruption, and yeah, it's a big deal. I also would have liked the original cost, like 4 and 4, to be put on Taj Mahal. I think that would have given Taj Mahal a little bit of a boost, but they didn't do that. So yeah, St. Peter's Basilica, as I said, used to be the strongest one. Now I have the feeling that it's not so good. It's still very strong, because you won't ever get a happy face problem with this wonder. But I feel like happy faces aren't that important anymore. It's easier to come by happy faces. Also, you can't count on getting Joan of Arc every game, because often she's not in the game if you play mixed. So yeah, you can't use that synergy every time. So I think St. Peter's got significantly nerfed, which is a good thing, and now for me it would be an 8. Now we're going for the expansion, and again, as I said, the expansion is out for 2.5 weeks now, and I haven't played hundreds of games like with the other leaders and wonders and the other cards, so it's still a little bit of uncertain if it will stay at the level that I will give them now, but that's the first impression. I think I will do my best. So at the Bella of Castile, during colonization you may pay 1, 3 or 6 resources to gain 1, 2 or 3 colonization. Also plus 1 resource production and 2 blue tokens. Tokens are nice to have, got a little bit more important in the expansion. And the 1 resource production also quite nice, especially if you add 3 bronze still, then it's a big boost to your economy. And the colonization, paying 1 for 1 colonization is very good. It's a good deal. 3 for 2, you can do that. 6 for 3, then it has to be a really, really strong colony. Maybe an H2 colony or something, and you have to have very good resource production. And as always, it's really hard to say how good these colonization bonuses are, because they always depend on if there are even colonies in the game at all. So maybe she's more of an 3 and 4 player leader. So I'm gonna give her a 7 still, because resource production is always good, and blue tokens make the game easier for you as well. Eleanor of Aquitaine, I don't know. Whenever you prepare an event, draw 2 military cards, score 1 culture for each military card you have to discard at the end of your turn. When Eleanor is replaced, get 3 civil actions back instead of 1. So the thing with the 3 civil action back instead of 1, and they obviously made that because she was too weak, so they tried to give her a small bonus. It's really nice to draw additional military cards, but then you have to also be the stronger player basically, or you have to control the deck before, and you can't always make sure of that. So maybe if you have a good HA leader like Caesar and you know what is in the deck, then you can take her and use her really well. Also getting 3 civil action back can be really nice with revolutions and stuff. Yeah, so she's definitely okayish, but on her own she can be really weak, because again she draws you some cards, but doesn't do much else for you. Scoring some culture is okay, but not the main focus. Maybe she's a very good transitional leader if you have like a really good HA leader who you want to keep for a long time, like Wavy or Aristotle, and then you take her, replace her, and then get an H2 leader really quickly, and then you can make use of her 3 civil actions you get back. So I think staying with her too long might be bad, but as a transitional leader she might be okay, but still not one of the best new leaders, so I'm gonna give her a 6. So now for Jansitska. For purposes of tactics, each of your farms counts as an HA infantry or artillery unit. Each of your armies produces 1 culture, also the military action. Now, if you compare Jansitska to Joan of Arc, there's a lot of similarities. The military action, of course, and some some culture production. Jansitska most of the time will be more culture production than Joan of Arc, but probably only 2. And for purposes of tactics, so you get also some strength, like from Joan, and yeah, but Joan also has the that you can look under the top of the current event card. So she has also 4 things that Joan does. Jansitska does basically 3, and I don't think that he does these 3 things really better than Joan. So I still think he's a strong leader, but just a little bit weaker than Joan, because she is had this additional bonus that is really nice to have. So Jan is gonna get an 8. And going to Nostradamus now. When you prepare an event, score an extra 3 culture. You see events your opponent prepares when determining the weakest civilization during events, and when defending against locations you have plus 3 strength. So also he does quite a lot. He can score you a really big amount of culture, basically 3 culture that you produce every turn. Also the ones from if you prepare events, because he helps you with that. Then you also see into the future event stack. This is, so when he's gone you still have information left, and then he makes it easier for you to control the event stack. So I like it that he plays around with the event stack so much. He's definitely strong, but he has to be used correctly. Maybe an HA leader that plays into events already and then going for him, and you can't fall behind military wise too much if you go against like Barbarossa or Genghis Khan and they get in front of you with more than 3 strength, then your bonus here doesn't give you much. So yeah, you have to keep up with military, but if you do, you can produce quite a lot of culture early on and have military have event stack control. So also I would give him an 8 because he does quite a lot. Then Johannes Gutenberg can be really strong, but can also be very bad if you get him too late. So if you get Johannes Gutenberg in one of your first turns, like the beginning of H1, and you have not built your second philosophy yet, then you can definitely go for Johannes Gutenberg, and if you use his abilities every turn, then you get basically a free civil action, and also some discounts for science and resources, and scoring some culture. So also he does quite a lot, but only if you use him, and he has a very you can't always guarantee that you can use him every turn. So maybe Also you want to swap him for a new leader pretty soon, or take him very early and then take your time and first build another philosophy, then take alchemy, and then develop alchemy, so do something with him every turn and don't rush it. And then he gets strong, but he comes too late and you have your 2 alchemies up already, he doesn't give you anything, so he's not that versatile, so I'm gonna give him a 7. Saladin, immediately after your action phase, decide either to increase your strength by 2 or gain 1 civil action, either lasts until the next decision or until Saladin leaves play. So, if you take Saladin, the problem a little bit is that the first turn you have him, he doesn't give you anything, so you have 1 turn without a bonus, and after that he's really strong. Either you can use him just to get 1 civil action, or get some strength if you really need it, if you know that there's bad stuff under the event stack. And choosing is always really nice. I like that they added a lot of stuff where you can choose between different stuff, and also I think he's very strong. Hungwabi is one of the strongest, and he also basically gives you 1 civil action, but takes away 1 military action, and Saladin just gives you a civil action. So I think he's really strong, and we'll give him an 8 as well. As you can see, these leaders pretty much a lot of 8s. Here also some 8s. I think they are very well balanced. I always liked the HA leaders even without the expansion, and I think they did a good job with adding these to the mix. So going for the wonders, we have Machu Picchu, your best HA or H1 farm and your best HA or H1 mine produce an extra blue token. First I thought this could be really nice, but the problem with Machu Picchu is that you have to go all in on your economy, and if you have irrigation and iron already, which you want to have with Machu Picchu, then you already have so much production of food and resources. Then getting a wonder that does even more of that is a little bit too much into one direction, and that's through the ages always a little bit of a problem. If you go all in on science production, you lag behind in other stuff. So I think Machu Picchu isn't that great, and we'll get a 6 from me. Now the Magic Castle. When evaluating war or aggression, you may choose one of your units, add its strength to your strength temporarily. It also gives you 3 culture of attacking or an extra plus 3 strength if defending. After evaluation, sacrifice a unit. Also really nice cost, 4 and 5, a little bit much, 9, most wonders cost 8, but 9 is definitely fine, and only 2 civil actions you need. That's really nice cost, and the 2 culture and 2 strength also really good to have in the early game. I really like this wonder. I think it's the best new wonder from from H1, and maybe even the strongest wonder overall, because just like Great Wall, it can give you so much for the end game where a big war might happen. And if you have H3 military units, then you get, if you're attacking, plus 5 strength temporarily for the last war, and that might be a culture swing of 10 culture. Or if you are defending and you suddenly have 8 strength more, that's 16 culture that would have been transferred, or would have made the difference of 16 culture. So yeah, for the big wars at the end, this is really strong. Also, producing culture and then defending that culture with the same wonder is really strong. I like it really very much. Might give it a 10. For now it's gonna be a 9 because I have to play it more often and see if it's as good as it was in my games I had in every game, and see if it's constantly so good. Forbidden City, to 2 of your discontent workers are ignored, and 1 civil action. So these discontent workers are ignored is a little bit like just 2 happy faces, not a little bit worse, but basically it's just 2 happy faces. And the civil action, of course, very nice. Problem is, if it comes very late, then you maybe already have some forms of happy faces and you don't need that. If it comes early, then you can compare it with pyramids, and pyramids are very strong. If you get this instead very early, then the extra resources and 1 civil action you need to build it are definitely worth the 2 workers. I still think pyramids are generally better, but if you get it early it can be also very strong, so I give it an 8. For the last wonder of age 1 from the expansion with the Silk Road, the benefits of the first action card you play on your turn are increased by 1. This effect applies as soon as the first stage is built. As you see, 5 civil actions to build it, producing 2 culture and 1 science. 1 science isn't that much, it can definitely help, but it's a little bit, it's not enough to rely on this alone to boost your science production like you can do with the universities. And then the building cost, it's not expensive to build, but costs so much, so many civil actions, that this is a wonder you can build if you have lots of civil actions and not a great economy. If you're still at 3 bronze, then it's really easy to build. If you have like also Code of Laws and Monarchy, so it's 6 civil actions. Yeah. Then also the bonus for the yellow cards is really good for you as well if you have generally bad economy. So yeah, I think this is the wonder to build if you are behind in economy and informed with the civil actions. So yeah, these are all the wonders of the expansion and the leaders of the expansion and all cards. Quite a lot of interesting cards, and if you have any comments on these rankings, as I didn't rank Silk Road, it's a 7 for me, so I forgot that. So yeah, if you have any comments on these rankings I gave, just let me know, and can discuss that in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I see you